I want to welcome the GMs and the wives, the godly men and the warm, inviting, feminine, empathetic women out there. So, being fat is a sign that you are openly showing the world that you are undisciplined and lazy. And I genuinely think that we need to put an end to this body positivity movement. And I say this as a man that was once nearly 200 pounds at 5'6". And so I was a pretty heavy boy. And I remember when I was playing video games, watching Netflix, eating pizza and ice cream. And that night I was happening to play video games. And I remember losing the game. And I was playing Fortnite. If anybody has played Fortnite before, shout out to the Fortnite players. But I was playing Fortnite and I had lost a victory royale that I was super close to beating. And I was just super frustrated. And I then thought to myself, I could keep being a loser and eating pizza and ice cream, playing video games, watching Netflix. Or I could start aiming to be a winner and start doing push-ups. And that's when I started to do push-ups. And that is the beginning really of my fitness side of myself and where I am today, where I'm about 155, 158 now, depending on the fluctuation of the week. But I'm about 155, 158 at 5'6". And so I've got still plenty of muscle now compared to where I was. I had like no muscle. It was mostly fat. And it was just quite a time to see myself transform, because when I was younger, I was pretty fit. I was playing tennis. I was playing basketball. Even though I wasn't necessarily on the team for basketball, I was on the team for tennis in high school. But I was playing tennis and I was in martial arts. I was fairly active. And then when I got into college and I started going to school full time, I started going to work full time, I let my health deteriorate. And really, in retrospect, what that meant was that I was completely neglecting my inner being, my inner self. And so what happened is that I ultimately became a version of myself that I didn't even recognize in the mirror at one point. And I began to look at myself in the mirror and I said just the reality of what those things were about my life. I looked at the reality of me being fat and lazy and unrealistic and a kind of delusional about where I should stand among the society that I live in. And nowadays it's interesting. I don't feel necessarily bad saying this, but it's weird to say this and know where I was. There are times when I look at fat people and I am completely disgusted, like a chill goes down my spine. And it's not necessarily because I hate the person. It's because I know that they've made consistent decisions that lead to self-sabotage and they're not doing anything about it. And I know that because I did that. That was something that I did, and I take full responsibility for that, and I'm never letting that happen again. Even to this day, I put my health as a priority in everything that I do. In fact, most of what I do around my day, I first start with my fluids, my nutrition, and my workouts. That is everything that starts my day, or at least I mold everything around those things, because I know that if I don't have my internals right, I'm not going to get the externals right. And not even just working out and nutrition and my fluids, but also meditation is something that I practice every single day. And it's not always like a fully in-depth meditation. No, because meditation is not necessarily trying to transcend into consciousness in a certain way all the time. It's simply noticing what it's like to be you in this moment. That's what that is. And there's a lot of misconceptions that go along with that. But really, the main goal is to ensure that you're living a not necessarily a balanced life, because I don't like the way that some people even say that. It's like, oh, you gotta have balance. It's like, well, sometimes you don't get to have balance. Okay, sometimes you don't. Was I was I getting balance when I needed to go in my caloric deficit and I needed to lose the weight to get to where I am now? That was not balance. In some ways, it kind of was, if you want to look at the grand scheme of things, but in the moment, it sure as hell didn't feel like balance. It did not feel like balance at all. It felt like I was putting myself through worse suffering than I needed to, and I was. I was putting myself through unnecessary suffering, and I realized that even if I did have a family of my own at the time, I don't know if how long I would have been able to last. I that's one of the other things about health and fitness that's so important. And this body positivity, like, oh, we don't need to shame fat people. It's like, well, it's not that I want to shame fat people because they're fat. It's that I want to shame you for your choices. And it's not because I'm trying to be an a-hole or anything. It's because I want to do it out of love. And I do have compassion for these people that make these terrible decisions thinking that there's not going to be any repercussions. And if there's no repercussions, then, oh, well, then, like, it's fine. But how do you know there's no tongue twister for some reason. How do you know that there's no repercussions for what it is that you're doing when you're allowing yourself to get this way? How do you know? And that's something that you really need to ask yourself. Nobody else is going to be able to tell you any different, really. Because I could ask you, how do you know? But in this case, the question is the answer. And that is how a lot of things are with God in general, is that the question can be the answer sometimes. And I got closer to God when I lost the weight, because it wasn't necessarily that I was just losing material weight. It was that I was losing spiritual weight along with that. I had accumulated spiritual weight, and I was just eating things to try to not look at the external things. I was consuming things over here so I didn't have to worry about the things over here. And that wasn't really a wise decision to make, because in the end, neglecting my internals over here was what caused the externals to be so really catastrophic and painful to come to terms with. And so now I'm not that man at all, not in the slightest. I have the utmost respect for discipline in general and accountability for myself. I'm responsible. I'm more in tune with my body and my emotions. I don't think anyone that has gone to the gym, comes back from the gym, or just wherever, right? Wherever you go to work out, whatever it is, whether you have a home gym, whatever. Nobody's come away from a workout and thought, oh, I feel more shitty about myself. Like, I've never heard that at all. You might be more tired, you might be more sore, sure, but I've never heard somebody say, wow, my life isn't better because I did that. And the only time that might happen is if somebody's dealing with an injury or something. But if you take the right precautions, like, I stretch every day, I warm up. I didn't used to warm up before my workouts, but now I do. I warm up and I stretch before I actually get to working out so that my muscles are just more loose. I make sure to stretch after my workout. There's this rolling foam thing. I don't remember what it's called right now, but it's kind of like a tennis ball, but I call it a roly-poly-oly. That's just me, but I don't know what it's actually called. But you can lay that down and you can massage your muscles, and you can either go front to back or side to side. You can put it on your quad or your hamstring, and just kind of like a tennis ball would bring a knot out of your back or something. If you place the tennis ball on the wall and you rolled your back on it, that's kind of what it's supposed to do with this foam, but with more surface area, really. And it's super relaxing, and it really alleviates the any kind of joint or muscle pain. Sometimes there was a time about a month ago or so where I was doing dips, and those are basically you can think about these as the squats for your upper body. And I was doing dips, and I started to have this left shoulder pain a little bit, but it wasn't necessarily the muscle. It was more like inside and in the tendon. And one of the ways that I started to strengthen that was I took a rubber band, or like a band in general, at the gym, and I started doing exercises like this, or overhead and coming down, and that was strengthening the tendon in there. And so there's just little things that you can do to make sure that you're just staying prepared. You're not like hurting yourself or anything like that. And I haven't had any kind of shoulder pain since I started doing more of this. And because I can handle more weight on the dips, like I put weight on, like I have a belt that I put on for the dips, but if I'm going down, sometimes when I have the weight, sometimes I go a little bit further than 90 degrees, and that was where I was having trouble. So now I'm way more careful with my form. And it's funny how technique is way more important than the weight in working out or in martial arts or anything like that, right? Technique is always more important, and that goes for life as well. You see, this is something my Shifu, my Kung Fu instructor, taught me when I was actually in martial arts. He said that martial arts problems are life problems, and life problems are martial art problems. And I began to see that there's a reflection in that with almost everything that I do in life and at the gym or working out or running, etc. If I'm having a hard time running, if I'm having a lot of endurance problems, that means that in my life I'm either not enduring enough, and I need to be able to strengthen my endurance by ramping up the endurance, or I'm starting to kind of go into a fuel low mode for my body, and I need to eat more, need to drink more fluids, maybe get an extra 20 minutes of sleep that night or something like that, because sleep is going to be super important as well. And it's funny how I really don't have sleep problems anymore. There's only been a few nights where I'll wake up from a dream and I can't really sleep after the dream because the dream was so significant, but that doesn't usually happen to me anymore. I'll usually be able to write down the dream, because I do have a dream journal. I'll be able to write down the dream and then go back to sleep pretty easily. But that wasn't always the case when I was fat. That wasn't always the case. But ever since I started to lose the weight, my body just naturally responds better to everything. And it's because I'm just giving myself the right foods, the right nutrition, and the right care and love, and tender love and care, the TLC, right? So anyways, guys, this isn't a negative video for people that might be fat or obese or going through something like this, because I've been there. I know what that's like. I'm not trying to shame out of hate, but it's more like a re-guidance and a removing of what's actually important, which is health. Can you imagine if we lived in a world where fitness and athleticism and strength of character was not only harnessed but encouraged by not just by everybody, not just a certain group of people, by everybody? Can you imagine the kind of creativity in the lives that we would be able to live? Instead, like, people just get so caught up in the jealousy and the envy and the negativity. If there's somebody that's doing better than me in life, I ask myself, okay, what are they doing to get there, and how did they get there? How did they do that? Because I want to know, like, I want to learn more. Obviously, they're doing something that I don't know enough about. So I'm completely open to learning. I'm completely open to wanting to know more if I don't know about something. I'm not jealous or envious of anybody else's success because I know what it takes to get to a certain point. And I know also that, like Jesus says in the Bible, if you are building the house on the rock of Christ, there will be storms that come, there will be winds and rain, but the house will still stand because it was founded on the rock. So with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful, and until next time, peace be with you.